Hi, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how I was able to make a soy wax melt look like a little cupcake. So I'll show you how I made the base of it and how I also whipped the wax to make it look like frosting on top. I'll go over the supplies and the step-by-step so all of you can see how I do this. Now, if you are new to my channel, my name is Kayla. I make videos all about concrete and candles. So if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the new videos I post in the future. So we will jump into this now so that way I can show you how I make these cute little cupcake wax melts. Let's jump into it. All right, so these are the supplies that you're going to need. So I'm going to be using two different waxes. The first wax is for the base. It's Golden 494. It's a tart wax, so it's specific for wax melts. For the frosting, I will be using Golden 464, and I will show you that when we make the frosting. Now you're going to want something to melt your wax in. So you're going to want something like a Presto pot or a double broiler like this in the picture. And then you're also going to want something to put your wax in. So I have these two pitchers. I have two different pitchers because I'm going to be using two different colors and two different waxes. So you'll want something to pour your wax in once it's melted. And then you're also going to want some kind of dye to dye your wax. So these are brown color dye chips from Candle Science. So you can use these to dye your wax. Next is the fragrance. So I'm using two different fragrances. The first one is fresh coffee for the base. And then the second fragrance oil I'm using is the buttered rum for the frosting. And on top of the frosting, I'm going to be adding cinnamon, so you can add something on top as well if you'd like. Another item you're going to need for the wax is a temperature gauge. So you can get a digital thermometer or just a regular thermometer. Either one works. This one I have found to be very helpful. Then you're going to want molds for the wax melt. So I found these little heart silicone molds on Amazon. They're really easy to use. And for the cupcakes, I'm going to be using this tin, but I have these little silicone cupcake molds that I'll be actually putting the wax in. The tin's just going to hold the shape. So I would just put each one in here like this and then pop it out once the wax is poured. Okay, so for the frosting, you'll want a glass bowl to pour the wax into, and then you'll want a whisk to whisk the wax. Now I don't have a frosting pipe, so it's okay if you don't. I'm just using a Ziploc and some scissors. I'll show you how I do that in the video as well. So each of my little cupcake hearts hold about 2.5 to 3 ounces of wax. This is about 1 pound, so I'm just going to make as many as I can with this pound. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour the whole thing in this Presto pot and use all of it. But if you needed to measure it out, then you would want to do that first before pouring in the wax. And how you would do that is just measuring on the kitchen scale in the pitcher before pouring it into the Presto. So we're going to go ahead and see what the wax temperature is at. Usually I like to take it out when it's heated up to about 180, and this is for 494 and 464 for each wax. I am going to take this and pour it directly into the pitcher, so I'm going to zero this out just so I know how much I am pouring in there. I do know I have a pound of wax, but I do like to have the measurements available. So I have this Presto pot, and I'm just going to go ahead and pour the melted wax into the pitcher. So once the wax is poured and you want to color your wax, you're going to want to add the color pretty soon when it's still hot and warm. So I'm going to be doing 1 whole chip
and then probably a couple little ones, so about like 1.5 for mine. I really want it to come out super brown. So you can always add more, so you can always start with a little bit. So once you get it, you can stir it around with a wooden stick, and this will help the color dissolve. So after a few minutes of stirring, as you can see, it's pretty dark. So I'm going to show you how you can test out the color to see what the color of the wax is going to look like. So you'll want a paper towel and then just your wooden stick. You're gonna stir and just make sure you really stir before you test out the color. As you can see, I had to stir mine a couple more times, but just stir and then drip the wax on the paper towel, and then that will tell you what color that wax is going to be once it's dry. Now after adding the color, our wax has cooled down to about 160, so we're gonna go ahead and add our fragrance. So again, this one we're doing fresh coffee. So this was a pound of wax, so I'm doing 10% fragrance oil. So I'm doing 1 ounce of fragrance oil. Thankfully, I had just enough for this batch. Now, you're going to want a spoon to stir the fragrance oil into the wax, and you just want to make sure you stir. I usually do about 30 turns one way and 30 turns the other way. While that's cooling, I'm going to go ahead and pour our frosting wax, the Golden's 464, into our Presto pot. While our frosting wax is melting, I'm going to go ahead and pour the base into these little cups. This did cool down to about 135, which is a really good temperature to pour at. This tart wax is going to set up really quick, so you want to make sure you pour quick, but not too quick to where you are over pouring. All right, now for the frosting wax, this is all heated up to 180. So again, I'm going to unplug my Presto pot and pour this into the pitcher. And then I am going to have the scale zeroed out so we know how much is going in there. Okay, so we had about 10 ounces of wax in this pitcher, so it is cooled down to about 160 where we can add the fragrance oil. So again, I'm doing 10% for this buttered rum, so I'm going to be adding 1 ounce of fragrance oil. Again, make sure you stir really well to make sure that oil binds with the wax. All right, so this has now cooled down to about 130, so I'm going to go ahead and pour it in the bowl. You can always wait a little bit longer if you'd like. Now really quick, while that is setting, I'm going to show you how I pull the little cupcake bases out of the molds and get them ready for frosting. So the hearts I always leave in, but the cupcake silicone molds I will just pop out and just place to the side. All right, so this is a few minutes after allowing the wax to set. So this is why I said if you wanted to let it set a little bit longer, you could before pouring it. But you're just gonna wanna make sure that you keep stirring and whisking until it comes into a nice consistency of frosting. So over the next few videos, I'm gonna show you a time lapse of me whisking the frosting and what consistency you want to get it to. One tip I can give is just to be patient. It does take a little bit of time for this wax to cool, and just keep whisking it. That's going to be the best thing for it. To a good consistency where we can now put it into the bag, you're going to want the frosting wax to be able to kind of stack on top of itself when you're stirring it, and just that kind of thickness. So go ahead and put all the wax into the Ziploc bag. And then you're going to go ahead and just pipe the cupcakes and the hearts. So I usually start on the outside and just go in circles and kind of just do a little tail at the top, if you want to call it that. So I will go over each of these and show you how I did the hearts as well. The hearts did come out a little different. I personally like the cupcake shape better, but the hearts were really fun to do as well. Now I just put a little bit of cinnamon in a Tupperware, and I'm just sprinkling a tiny bit on each wax melt. You don't want too much, just a tiny bit to give it a little bit of character. Now usually I let these set for a few hours before I try to take them out. The frosting will harden up. But you can use a toothpick or just peel off the sides of the silicone molds for the cupcakes. For the hearts, all you're going to do is just pull up the mold and then kind of pop out the back of the heart, and it'll pop.
All right, so that was my video on how to make the wax melts look like cupcakes and how to whip the wax. The one major tip I can give all of you is just patience with that. It does take a little bit longer for the wax to set up. And I used the Golden Wax 464 for the frosting this time. So if you are using more of a tart wax, specifically made for wax melts, it will harden up quicker. So just be aware of that and making your choice of what you're gonna use. But I hope this video was very helpful for all of you. If it was, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I really appreciate all of you watching, and I will see you in the next video.